Okay.
Make sure when I'm connected.
My name is Jimmy Hunter. I'm with the Sons of the American Legion, Detachment of Illinois, and we are at the American Legion Convention in Springfield, Illinois, and we are conducting an interview with Don Lange of Post 697 in Lansing, Illinois. And Don is going to tell us a little bit about his history when he was in the service. We are doing this for the Veterans History Project. Don, when and where were you born?
Hammond, Indiana, 1945.
And who were your parents and what did they do for a living?
Yeah, my mother was Catherine Lange, L-A-N-G-E. And she, mainly was a housewife and worked part-time as a seamstress. And my father was Edwin Lange, and he worked for Inland Steel. He was in the fire department.
Okay. And did you have any brothers and sisters?
No.
No brothers and sisters, huh? And what were you doing before you entered the service?
High school.
High school.
You went
right into the service from high school, huh?
High school, I worked for a crane company doing maintenance on cranes, and then until I went in the Army.
Okay. Well, you just answered my next question. You're in the Army, the
Right.
branch you served in. Did you enlist or were you drafted?
No, I enlisted.
Okay. Why did you choose that particular branch of service, the Army?
Because it was only 3 years.
The length of time, huh?
The other ones were all 4 years.
Okay. What happened when you departed for training camp and during your early days of training? What went on, where did you go, so forth?
Well, I went to Fort Knox for basic training. Mm-hmm. That was for 8 weeks. Leave and then went back for AIT at Fort Knox. And from there I went to Fort Benning, Georgia for jump school. And from there to the 82nd Airborne, where I spent the rest of my time.
Okay. Do you remember your instructors when you were in jump school and so forth?
Their names?
No, I don't. I their names.
Yeah, I can remember some of the instructors.
What were they like? Were they good instructors? I mean, I guess they did a good job because you're here with us still,
Well, basic, yeah. I guess they were good. AIT, in jump school, they treated everybody like dogs. If you were a captain on down, you got treated like a dog. If you were a major or up, you got a little bit of a break, but not much.
A little bit of respect, huh? But
not a lot.
Did you have any special training, just to jump school?
So, well, I was a mechanic, but I found out the motor pool was not the place to be. I was at the S2 clerk.
Okay. And how did you adapt to the military life, including the physical regime, the barracks, food, and social life, and so forth?
Well, it was okay. Definitely wouldn't make a career out of it, but it was a good experience, I guess.
And where did you say that you wound up serving when you served? After you got out of training and so forth, where did you go?
Fort Bragg, North Carolina, 82nd Airborne.
And did you stay there your whole time?
Yeah, 82nd Airborne, 1st 504th Infantry. Yeah.
So you didn't actually see any combat action?
Yeah, Dominican Republic.
Oh, okay. That's what I was getting at.
They had a coup down in the Dominican. That was in, May of 65. And they had a coup down there, and that was a combat zone. I got the combat infantryman's badge. And, and that kept me from going to Vietnam, because they couldn't transfer you from one combat zone to another.
Oh, okay.
So, in a way, I guess the Army regulations were good. Now, when I got out, we got back from the Dominican Republic, I only had like 3 months left on my enlistment. We were scared stiff we were going to get it extended, but we didn't.
How do you feel about witnessing the events that went on while you were there, the casualties and the destruction and so forth that went on during the battles that you might have been in?
Yeah, well, it was disheartening to say the least.
Yeah.
It,
What kind of friendships and camaraderie did you form while you're serving? And
well, I loved to hunt and fish, and there were guys who hunted and fished, and it was. And then, for I don't know, about 5 years or so, we kept in touch and then sorting, and
just drifting
kind
apart.
of, didn't get a Christmas card this year, and
Yeah.
just, sent a Christmas card and got it back, that type of thing.
How did you stay in touch with your family and friends back home in those days?
Letters and telephone.
Letters. What'd you do for recreation when you were off duty?
Off duty, hunted, fished. They had, played racquetball, and once they had swimming pools, that went to the movies, that type of thing.
There were places there that you could go hunting and fishing, huh?
Yeah, Fort Bragg is, I think, the biggest fort they have land-wise, and they had a regular hunting and fishing club, and then, we went to the bars too, downtown.
It's all part of the service life.
Fayetteville,
It's all part of the service life.
Oh, yeah.
Where were you when the war ended?
The Dominican Republic war, or what?
Well, that kept you from going from Vietnam.
That kept me going to Vietnam.
They were still going on when you got out?
Vietnam was still going.
Yeah, okay.
It was just getting going heavy, hot and heavy. It was hardly anything when I went in, but it was hot and heavy when I got out.
Okay. And then you just returned home by bus or plane or something?
I had a car. I drove.
Oh, okay. And how were you received by your family and the community?
About the same. I grew up in that town. I mean, everything,
Nothing changed?
I was accepted. I was never spat on or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But like I say, that when the war was just starting, when I went in, nobody even thought about going to Vietnam. That was in '63. Nobody, and then it started building up. And when I got out, then things were going hot and heavy then.
And you didn't have any problems readjusting to civilian
no.
life or anything, So. And as far as remaining in contact with fellow veterans, you just explained about the cards and so forth and so on. And do you belong to any other veterans organization besides the American Legion?
Yeah, VFW.
VFW. And what have you been done since you left the military? What have you done career-wise?
Well, I had a bunch of different jobs. I got laid off and stuff like that, so I joined the Illinois State Police. Yeah, retired from the Illinois State Police.
Oh.
And then I had after my retirement, I had different part-time jobs.
Okay. Hope I didn't mess that up. How did your time in the service affect your life?
Well, it opened my eyes to a lot of things, and made me I seen what happened. We had an incident where 2 Dominican soldiers terrorized the village. They were drunk, and they did terrorize, killed a few people. The Dominicans came to us, and all they could do was throw rocks at them, at the 2 drunken soldiers. And I was 19 years old, and I made a solemn pledge, and I don't care what kind of laws they pass, I will never give up my gun. I'll always have a gun to protect myself. I can still see all that going on in my mind. It really left an impression on me. The people that were supposed to protect them were terrorizing them.
And what did you say that the reason that you were in the Dominican Republic of Order, they had a coup there?
They had a coup there.
Change in the government, and our forces went there just supposedly to keep peace. Is that
Right.
Right?
Yeah, about the first 2 weeks it was hot and heavy down there. You got shot at and that, and then the second 2 weeks was you had to watch out for poison cokes, and they would string wire across the roads. We had to put them guards on our Jeeps and stuff like that. And then after about 30 days, it kind of calmed down, and then they were kind of there, but it wasn't all that bad. But when we first got there, people were getting killed.
Did the hostilities end before you left?
They pretty
much got the government stabilized. So what life lessons have you learned from your military service?
Well, how to get along with people. It was when I was in the academy. It was the first all-veteran class that they had since the Second World War, and they said we can really tell the difference because you people the inspections are much better. You're close to living with, or you're used to living with one another. There's not near the trouble there normally is.
When you say academy, you're referring to the State Police Academy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they said everything is better with this class, except for one thing: the language is much worse. As we have guests come through the academy, when you're on your breaks, watch your language. But they said other than that, everything was, our class was better than the average class because we were all veterans.
So that helped you with learning discipline.
Well, yeah, definitely.
And self-control and how to take orders and so forth.
And just riot week, the first day they put 9 people in the hospital during the riot for riot training. It was riot week. I mean, they swung at you, you blocked it or took it, one of the two. And they harassed the living daylights out of them. It reminded me of jump school, only I was ahead of them. The 2 instructors came up to me and they said, "What's with you?" I said, "What do you mean, what's with me?" "Well, how come we can't shake you? No matter what we do, we can't get you riled up. And not only can't we get you riled up, you're telling the other cadets what's going on and what to expect. Were you by any chance a paratrooper?" I says, "Yes." They said, "Oh, that explains it."
Okay.
I told them, I says, "I've been harassed by experts. You're amateurs." But so I've had many life lessons like that.
So it helped toughen you up.
Well, yeah. Well, in the academy, they told you if you can't take this, you'll never take it out on the road. It toughens you up all right.
So that all goes back to your military service.
And well, the guy, I was talking to join the Army. My father had died, and the guy from the crane company told me, your mother babies you, which is normal, because you're going to get drafted anyway. See, because you have to learn that if you drink a Coke or eat a candy bar, that it's coming out of your pocket, not somebody else's. Because the Army's a good place to learn that. And he says, you didn't have to go anyway. And he says, when you get out, I'll give you a full-time job, and I'll give you a $500 bonus, which at that time was about a month's pay, $500. That was, so yeah, it did what he told, when you came out. When I got married, I went to see the minister, and he says, you were in the Army, you should know it all. So, yeah, you learn about life, you have to.
So you're, everything you experienced after that because of your service, and I know you were there, they say that you pretty well have learned life's lessons then, is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, I was 18 when I went in, 20, so.
Right. What similarities or differences do you see in the world as a veteran compared to that of those currently serving in the military?
Well, I don't know, now they're all volunteers. When I went in, we had draftees, so I guess that would be the biggest difference.
How has your military service impacted your feelings about the war and military in general?
No, I'm pretty much, in favor of the military, but not war. I was, I'd never be in favor of that. But,
is there anything else that you would like to add that we haven't covered?
No, I don't think so, no, not that I can think of.
think we pretty much covered the things you did and your experiences and
Yeah.
so forth. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to do this, and we certainly...
Well, so I'll just say I spent some time at Walter Reed, and at that time Walter Reed was a fantastic hospital. And, I was grateful for that. I was born with a hair lip and a cleft palate, and they helped. They can only operate on you when you have to wait till your face stops growing before they can do much more. Mm-hmm. So they took care of me in the Army, so in the Army, overall it was a good experience. I wouldn't want to do it again, but mm-hmm. I did. I can't say it was a bad experience.
But in the same respect, you also were proud to serve your country. Right?
Oh yeah, and I'd have no objection to them coming back with the draft. The only thing that I would say is that if they do start drafting people, the politicians have to go on the front line, including the president. 30 days for a congressman or a senator and 2 weeks for the president. I mean on the front line, not behind. He had experiencing with the troops. If they ever had a draft. Now, I know that'll never happen, but...
Well, that's the first plan I've heard.
They're cutting our military in half now. We were just talking about they might come back with... Like the way things are right now, I would not want to be in the military. In any of the branches.
Because of the way the military's run, or because of the world situation?
The world situation. Yeah. Well, what they're doing to the military.
Right.
I mean, cutting them in half. If you wanted to make a career, how do you know? You might have 12 years invested in there, and I only got 8 to go, and all of a sudden, wham, here's your pink slip.
Yeah.
Hit the streets. We don't need you no more. And they don't back, this present administration isn't backing the military at all.
So overall, you would say that your military experience was a good life lesson. Yeah. You learned many things, experienced many things, and proud to have served your country.
Yeah. When I was in the Army, the military, I think, was a lot better off than what it is now.
All right. If you have nothing else to add, I think, again, thank you for doing this interview with us.
Okay.
God bless you, and thank you for your service.
Okay.
Good.
What does this do? To show you what you're typing?
It does, yes.
Yeah, because I've seen a lot of court recorders. I never seen them with a laptop before.
Yeah, they all have the software that translates. The software is also on my machine, so it does both. And this is a microphone, so I have an audio backup. So I go through the audio backup and make sure that I got everything correctly. Anything that doesn't translate, I take and correct it.